Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about
So we should probably just get into it, right?
let's go. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's what day of the week is it? What is it, like a
this
Thursday?
is Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. It's
Thursday.
been a pretty rad week, I would say.
It's been interesting.
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. A lot of stuff has been going on. But yeah, overall, how are you? How are you feeling?
How am I feeling? In general, I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain sense of I don't know how to describe it. Do you
What?
want to get in details? Okay, so
Details, yes. Go for it.
details. Go for it. Well, it's interesting time that we're living now.
It is.
I am being a witness of history, trying to stay, to elevate, I guess, and not dive into the chaos, even though, in my case, a lot of people that are dear to me could be negatively impacted,
Yeah.
but we don't know that yet. And so, I don't know. It's very strange,
It
but
is a very strange time.
reading and um, trying to think and trying to soak in history, it's hard because obviously in 10 years we'll be looking back and something will be coming out of it.
You
But
know,
when you're in the middle of
when
it,
you
it's
say
hard.
that though, I feel like when I look back at 2016 that there are a lot of blind spots that I have given everything that happened thereafter. And I don't remember exactly how I felt. I mean, I remember exactly how I felt like certain days. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. Like looking back at those times and especially looking at things that we were posting on the internet and like the ways that we were communicating with each other, the things that we were actually feeling and fearing, and how the things that scared me the most back then are now things that we just have to come to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that wild? That's where we're living now. But yeah, I mean, it is challenging sometimes to stay in a place of hopefulness where you can look to the future and be excited of what's to come. And for me, I took the TikTok app off my phone because I needed to hear fewer opinions about what they thought was going to happen. Because that does not help me or my mental health or my emotional health at all. Something that does, though, is looking at what it is that I have any control over when it comes to my own life, when it comes to being able to help people and showing up for somebody else. It's like not my first instinct. My first instinct is to get in bed and stay in bed. I mean, it's been a little bit challenging sometimes to get up any motivation to sort of like put one foot in front of the other, but I get to do that. And I think that that's one of the most fascinating parts about going through something that is an unprecedented time.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of those in the last, 8 to 10 years. And yeah, I feel like because I have proven to myself so far that I'm capable of walking through an unprecedented time, that maybe I can walk through this one too. I don't know what it's going to look like. And I imagine that things are going to get really hard and really weird and really challenging. But I get to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's, you get to do it, you get to witness it, you get to show up for the people who matter. For me, that was the biggest thing last week and this week is to show up for the people I care about.
Yeah.
And maybe show up for those people even more than I used to. The first 4 years, I spent a lot of time obliterated, drunk. This time, it's not gonna be that way.
Yeah, it's not the
because
same.
It's not the same. So I am seeing it from a very, very, very different lens, and I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm realizing that there's obviously people that are very, very dear to me that I will show up for, and I don't know what that's gonna look like. For now, it's a lot of love and it's a lot of caring, and then we'll see. And I don't know that and I'm trying to look at it as not bad or good, but just is, and we're just gonna navigate something that's gonna be history.
There have been a few moments that I've shared with you that like it feels a little bit as if what I'm learning when it comes to interior design and fabrics and furniture and history of architecture, that these are things that seem sometimes frivolous when the world gets when things get really heavy. And I've found it to be exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
That there are so many ways that, like, the history of architecture, the history of a certain piece of furniture will tell a story of what people were going through at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows me to almost feel like staying in this place of allowing myself to be creative and really curious about things and wanting to learn more keeps me closer to someone that might be able to tell the story of what we're going through, not necessarily through words or on a TikTok or something like that, but instead to create something, to create a feeling, to share the essence of what we're all going through design. I think that there are incredible artists out there that are doing that now, and this is really the time for artists, and this is the time for storytellers, and I'm really grateful that I get to be one. And anytime that I get to that mental place where I'm like, oh God, can I talk about a pillow right now? Because it feels like the world's ending. Like, no, even no matter what happens, like the things that we feel that bring us comfort, the things that make us feel at home are so valuable.
To tie in with, yesterday we went to the Style House.
Yes.
Which, post World War II, it's a moment in time, in history that's translated through architecture. The guide that we had yesterday was really, really good, I thought. Yes. And was able to translate that to make us feel that we were, that house is a witness of, a time period.
Yeah.
That's stayed. And I think that 2024, we will have something similar. So whatever we do, it's, will be impacted by history.
Absolutely. Do you feel like the Renaissance is coming?
Or
do you think it's already here?
See, I'm very much, which is a very strange thing. I'm worried, but I'm very determined to not make it good or bad.
I see that. I see that. That makes sense.
So I don't know if we have a renaissance. We have something new. We have something new because of all the technology that I don't understand most of it. But I'm trying.
You don't. It's fine.
And, the way people are going to live, the way people are going to interact, there's something that's, all right, I don't know, there's something that's, I'm going to try to be closer to people from a human thing. So, doing more dinners, doing more interviews, so I'm taking the opposite side of technology and AI but I will take, I'm not judging it. I'm not saying, oh, that's bad. And, I think that there's two sides to what we're seeing right now. One is going to be, AI technology all out. And then one side is going to be experiential, traveling, meeting people, and I'm going more that direction because of
connecting
my age.
More with interpersonal relationships is so valuable. Yeah.
Because of my passion, be it design, cooking.
Yeah.
I'm at heart, I'm a salesman. I like people. So it's like, that's where I'm going to go. But I'm really looking at, the whole technology side and be like, it is not going away. It is going to be used for good and bad, like everything that's been used, in our world, sadly, and we'll see where it lands.
Yeah. I also feel the same way. Really quick, just to add on to that from my perspective, being someone who has worked with AI a little bit and who I was just talking to someone yesterday at the tour that we went on who has created a career for themselves in set design through AI. And I think it's really fascinating and it's a really interesting art. I allow myself to be curious about it before passing judgment. Do I have judgment? Absolutely. Do I have my opinions? Absolutely. But I also don't think that my opinions are very helpful in where we're going. So what do I get to lean into? And I really like that you were talking about leaning into interpersonal relationships and having that. We talk about this all the time on the podcast, the tactile experience with spaces and with with things, with pieces of furniture, with fabrics. We need to have that. And I'm a big believer in it. You've kind of, I mean,
Yeah, I'm
you've
a broken
influenced
record.
me. Yeah. But I do now, after spending some more time like in showrooms and going on this tour, especially, I'm really feeling that. So I do want to talk more about the tour though that we went on. So
that was magical.
Jamie Rummerfield, who is our second guest that we had on the show. She works with Save Iconic Architecture. I'm really curious about how these houses are found, how their stories are being told, and whether this is something that, and maybe you know the answer to this, like when they are built, that they instantly have this sort of gravitas to them, or whether this is something that's sort of discovered over time. Because this house is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Were the case study houses, as they were being built, like built with that same fanfare?
They were.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for most of them, some of them were built by major architects.
Yeah,
De
so-
Kooning was
yeah.
young when he did the style house. So, but I think they were followed in the press a lot. They were definitely heavily, I don't know, marketed is the right word, but they were avant-garde. They were, things that and be it Nutra or, they were, I mean, those architects were already
Yeah,
powerful at the time.
absolutely.
So they've been in the press. They've been in, at the forefront of.
I think the reason why I was wondering that is that, so this house in particular, I just did what you did. I just started a sentence and then didn't finish it and then just moved on. I'm going to.
It's you're catching it.
No, I don't want to. Oh,
All right.
gosh.
So for our listeners, we're not going to cut that out. Elise is very much struggling with the fact that I start a sentence, I go to another one, and then I don't even finish it.
Yeah.
And sometimes people answer a question that I didn't ask, and she's flabbergasted by it.
It's challenging for editing. It's challenging.
All right.
Anyway, so continuing on, what I was saying was, I wonder if the families that are living in this house, in these houses, have an understanding of what this is going to look like in the history books, like as it's happening. And this family, I'm pretty sure they did, because otherwise I can't imagine that realistically they were super comfortable in this house.
Right.
So the Stahl house was built in 1959, and it was built in West Hollywood on a cliff, essentially on a hillside, where there's a very small little square of concrete outside of the very top of the house. It's the closest to the edge of the world, the cliff, this mountainside. And if you were to fall down, you fall down 1,700 feet. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, you
Doesn't make sense.
you have to make sure that when you take a photo, you don't.
Yeah.
A little further, a little further, a little further.
You fall quite a ways. So this house, yes, built on a cliff, all entirely windows. I think that there are maybe a couple of walls that aren't windows that are facing the street, but everything that's facing the city.
Yeah, it's all
windows.
I mean, the view is.
Yeah. 2 bedrooms, master, and then the kids' bedroom. 3 kids in a bedroom. That I didn't think about this until later. But in order for them to get to the kitchen, if they need a glass of water, they have to walk at night outside by the pool. Mm-hmm. Or walk through their parents' bedroom, which is also possible.
Which is probably what they did. I have questions about what it would be like to live in that house. I think that it's so... As a single guy, just fine.
As a single guy, absolutely.
Or a single woman.
Oh, for sure.
As a single person.
As a single
just
person,
fine.
easy. Even if you're like married, you're in a couple, 2 people living in that house, how fun.
Yes.
How fun. You have some guests over. Your guests are having cocktails overlooking the city. It's beautiful for entertaining. But on a day-to-day basis, this is what I was imagining, okay? Imagine that you are in a couple. You have 3 kids, okay? Actually, let's say 2, because they conceived 2 of their children in the home. My question is, how did you go about that?
I think that I think
In
they
a
had a
house
love
with
story.
no privacy.
Right. They had a love story with the house. So
They
they were
did,
willing
yeah.
to
I'm sure.
compromise.
I'm sure they figured something out.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they did.
It was a dream.
Yeah.
They built a dream. They
Yeah.
lived in a dream house. And I think that, even, I mean, we didn't meet the kids, but
Mm-hmm.
I am pretty sure that they see that house as, a heritage to history. I mean, they
Oh,
are taking care of
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
And like yeah, and it is a testimony to, architecture in LA. I mean, it's huge. So yeah, I think that they probably compromised a bit. I'm
Yeah.
sure that there were a
Yeah.
couple of moments where they were like, what are we doing? But the love of that house was bigger than anything else,
And it's
they all
such an
made it
incredible
work.
house. It's such a beautiful house.
But we talked to, when we went to, again, it was with Jamie for Save Iconic Architecture, we listened to the owners of the Euler house.
Yes.
And that was very similar, where they were talking about how the family lived there. And
Yes.
it was a passion. It was a dream come true to have a house like that. And they made it work for the whole family no matter what. And, there's...
And also in the 1950s and 60s, parents were a little bit more lax.
Yeah, I
with
mean, right now it's...
their safety concerns.
Right now it's like the pool should be gated, which means that you couldn't even get into the
I
house.
know, it was
I mean,
a pool on a cliff.
Right.
So what was he saying, that there was that they would put the kids in a life vest when they were walking them through the house, which is adorable to imagine, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think
as
that's
long as-
really cute. Yeah.
As long as the kids didn't know how to swim.
If they
had
didn't
a
know how to
life vest.
swim. Yeah. That's
But-
really cute.
I get it. I mean, it's a dream, and it really is a dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole thing. I dreamt when I was up there. That's for sure.
Yes.
So yeah, I get the. I don't know if you call it a sacrifice, but there was definitely
There were compromises made.
compromises made.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
So I'm going to pull this up because this is, I mean, normally you talk about the homework first, but I did have the opportunity to go through this, the LA Modern by Tim Street Porter.
and the cover is
And the cover is the stall house.
right.
So this is where we were yesterday. And it looks so different here. There's more of like this sort of like rust color in the house. Everything is white when we went there. I really liked going through this because it's giving me a lot of an education on the history of Los Angeles architecture, which is something that I'm really interested in. The stall house is in here, and getting to walk through it and getting the opportunity to hear someone tell the actual like emotional
Right.
story of it. That's what connects me to these things. That's what connects me to these places. I imagine what people would have been like living in it, and the dream of it, and actually seeing it come together into an actual home, building this thing from the ground up. When they were talking about the retaining wall and like building this
Right.
retaining wall with like it's cement and gravel and by hand, essentially. Like that's wild to me. But I love hearing that story because I'm never going to forget that now.
Right.
Because it's attached to something that was emotional. And also our tour guide had so much passion and so much emotion in talking about this house. So that really connected me to it really deeply. But getting to look through this book, this is an education in itself. And there are a lot of things as we were going through it where I'm looking at, I want to know the whys. And so it makes me curious to like, well, I wonder why they decided to do it that way or why they chose this.
Well, hopefully, Jamie.
If
will-
Jamie wanted to take us on any other tours.
Exactly. But
Oh gosh, it was so amazing.
Follow Save Iconic Architecture.
Yes.
For whoever
And follow
listens.
us.
And follow us. Yes.
I don't
too.
hold on. Side note. If you like what we're doing, you should just follow us. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
You'd think, right?
Oh yeah.
I think there are a lot of lurkers out there though. They're like, what are you guys doing? And I think that's fine too. Lurk us. That's fine. But also you can subscribe. Like
Yes. It apparently it helps. I don't know.
it helps. It helps with everything that we're doing. And if you like what we're doing here and if you're learning anything from the Clutter Bravado podcast, I mean, it's going to stay free. Just like us. Just follow us.
Just do it.
Just subscribe.
But
Anyway.
and at the same time, once you follow us, follow
Yes.
Save Iconic Architecture.
Save Iconic Architecture.
And it's an organization that we love to support.
Because they have a lot of events too.
Yeah,
and
so
they're doing a lot
they're
more
gonna do a
tours
lot
and setting
more,
setting these things up. I love that. So we're gonna take advantage of that for sure. There are a few names that are really standing out in a lot of these that I'm seeing a lot through this book, but also that I'm hearing a lot when it comes to iconic architecture. Pierre Koenig, right?
Young at the time.
Very young architect in 1959. So he had a few case study houses. And then there's Neutra. Very similar style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Eames and Schindler and Lloyd Wright and...
So we're going to try to go...
A. Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a few more tours and try to update everybody on those. And Tim Street Porter, an amazing LA-based photographer here who's done many books with his wife.
Oh,
and
wow.
He's just one of the top photographer here for architecture. So it's a shout out to him because
Neat. We should chat with him.
amazing talent.
Let's get him on here. I want to know everything he knows.
Yeah. And the Style House, I mean, it's funny because the cover of LA Modern is the Style House, and then Jonas Schulman, who is also knew Jimmy and Ron from very, very well. I met him once, who has taken, the most famous photos of the Style House. So those two photographers, quite special.
Quite special. Amazing. Okay. Oh, I have one more thing to talk about.
Yep.
Pinterest. Pinterest. So I started a Pinterest board of things that I'm feeling, things that I'm liking, things that I'm looking at, things that we talk about. And it's growing slowly, but I'm putting some things together. And I'm definitely really excited to start my LA Modern Pinterest board. Just of things that I'm really into. Because I've got a lot of things floating around up here that I'm excited to share. So if you do follow us on Instagram or on YouTube or Spotify or anything like that, check out our Pinterest. It's fantastic. I'm going to link it. It's linked on our Instagram and everything, so it'll be easy to find. But
Cool.
Okay, we should probably get to our guest.
Yes.
Our dear friend, my dear friend, someone that I love so much, that I've known him for a couple of years, but I didn't realize I didn't realize that he was who he was until a year ago. I didn't know him through the industry at all until a year ago. But he's been a friend of mine for a long time. Mr. Thomas Hayes.
I know, and I've known Mr. Thomas Hayes since kindergarten, I think.
Really?
Well, it's been 20 years. Just be nice. I'm trying. So yes.
It's fine.
Thomas and I started in the antique business together.
Oh yeah.
So
I like it.
an amazing guy.
Amazing. Let's get him on here.
Let's go.
Yes. Welcome to Clutter Bravado. Today we are here with Thomas Hayes. Thomas Hayes is you're more of a personality online, but your furniture is famous, been featured in AD 1,000 times.
Yeah.
A million different designers are working with you. You are incredibly popular.
And Laurent knew me back when.
And he knew you back when.
We were scrapping for vintage modern design pieces. I didn't even see it coming.
That brings us to whoa. That was a while back, but
Yeah,
it was
couple
fun.
years. Yeah.
So I've known you for a while.
Uh-huh.
And one of my favorite things about getting to know you as a designer is that I had known, I don't think you know this, I had known Thomas for probably about a year.
Uh-huh.
And then when I started working for the designer that I was working for, we went to the West Edge Design Fair. And I walk around the corner and I see him and I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And then I see his work. I'm like, oh my God, you are Thomas Hayes? I put it together after that. I had recognized your work.
So funny.
I know. And the woman I was working for loved his work.
And we
loved
loved
his
her. I
furniture.
mean, she's really sweet.
She's amazing. I love her so much. And hopefully at some point we get to have her on the show as well. But yeah, it was a wild thing to like put that together.
It was like I kind of caught you in the middle of a work day, and it was like, oh hey, and it was cool.
So okay, how did you two meet for the first time?
Go ahead, Laurent.
Well, we both had an antique store.
Yeah.
I came down here, and I think that's when I met you the first time. I came because everybody was like, "Do you know Thomas?"
Was it at the show or no?
I think I was at the show. I came to your shop first, and then we did an antique show together.
I think I was known even back then as a doer. I was like a doer. Like I was running around, buying stuff, doing stuff, always trying to like, make deals, and I would help people, like random people. Just that I didn't know. I would just like help them with stuff.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a secret sauce for success is like helping people with like no motive just puts you in the middle of weird places where all of a sudden good things are happening to you.
Yeah, and it allows you to build up relationships that you probably wouldn't otherwise. If you were just only focused on just the business aspect of it, you're shutting yourself off to so many different relationships that can grow into that later on.
And all business is relationships.
Totally.
If you're not selling an app or something that's not you, if you're selling you, it's all relationships.
Yeah.
And it's not linear. It's not like linear. It happens organically. Like, do you know Mid-Century LA? Do you know that guy?
No.
He's over in North Hollywood, and Sam Kaufman, if you remember him.
Oh yeah.
He gave the guy my number and said, "Oh, call Thomas. He knows how to do things." That's it. The guy was in Sweden, right? He's in Sweden.
Yeah.
This is 20 years ago, at least 21 years ago. And he goes, "Hey, I sold 3 containers full of Swedish furniture to what's the store? Some store, and they backed out of the deal, and the containers are on the water, and they're coming to LA, Urban Outfitters. And I don't know what to do. And this guy said that you could help me. Can you help me?" And I spent like 3 hours on the phone with him. I'm like, "I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to help you." I never even bought anything from him. It was never like, I know it's weird. Like I invited all these dealers that came, bought stuff from him. He rented a building that was being torn down in West Hollywood that was like a very gay tanning salon. And he stacked all the furniture in these tanning booths. And I basically...
Whoa.
I called everyone I knew and said, "Come buy stuff from this guy." And that's how he started his business. Now he owns this mega building over in North Hollywood. He gets like, 40, 50 containers a year. And he's just, like you and me, he's just been doing this for a long time. And yeah, but I mean, you do things because it's nice to do. Mm-hmm. And if you transplant that into your business model, then you become somebody that people want to work with.
Yeah.
Because they can work with anybody. They can buy old stuff from anybody, new stuff from anybody. But if you are concerned about them and helping them, I think it's like a secret thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing when you're starting off, you have so many different irons in the fire, or you're just like, okay, I'm just going to say yes. That's something that I've been doing quite a bit lately. It was just like, okay, yeah, sure, I can do that and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you never know where that's going to end up or who you're going to end up working for or how you're going to affect somebody else's business too. So did you have anything in mind when you were first starting to do this? Did you have an end goal set?
I mean, I wanted to deal in mid-century because I loved it and I was passionate about it. And then I just wanted to be successful at it. So back when I met Laurent, I was like in a dogfight. I was like going to win against everyone. That was my whole thing. And and then my friends back then were telling me like, "Look, you don't have any money. Like these guys that you're talking about competing with, Joel Chin and Robert and David, right? They're fucking millionaires. They like already have millions of dollars. Like you're a great guy and you're young and whatever, but like you don't have millions of dollars, And I'm like, fucking, I'll show you, I'm going to be the best, Mm-hmm. And that drive, I think, helped me. But as I became more successful, that same drive will destroy you. Mm. You can't like use narcissistic defenses to build something and then keep using. You can use it to build something, but you better put them down and start being kind and whatever. Like, I wasn't kind to myself, and therefore not always kind to everyone around me because I was so obsessed with being successful.
Yeah. What did that pivot look like for you then when you got to that point where you're like, okay, like, did you hit a number limit or was there a specific goal?
I would say I was like 30. Remember when, like, in 2008, 7, 8, the economy, like, took a turn?
Absolutely.
So I was like, I mean, I just bought this building in Hollywood. I was a genius for buying this building. But then overnight I was like, not a genius anymore because everything was bad. Stuff wasn't selling. And I was previously working 7 days a week, but now I couldn't afford to pay my guys on the weekend. So I'm sitting at home rocking on the sofa, just like scared, not knowing what to do. And I think that pushed me back into a lot more work on myself. I got into therapy. And I just said, like I just said, I had to like take those things that I used to get successful and change. Interestingly, like the bank was after me because at that time my numbers weren't right. I was making my mortgage payment, but I was just like barely making it. So the bank will mess with people who make their payment, but they're not solid.
Yeah.
People who don't pay, they'll leave them alone. There's like, we're never going to get money from them. Fuck it. Just let it go. So this guy's on my case every month, demanding all these papers and things. And one day I'm talking to him and I said, man, look, help me, man. Like, help me out. Like, I'm going to pay this loan no matter what. Even if I lose this building, I'm still going to pay it because that's who I am. I said, but help me out. You're smarter than me. You fucking are a banker. And he's like, oh, no one's ever said that to me. And he came over, right, from Bank of America and helped me make a plan. I sold some stuff at auction. I paid off all my debts. And I rebuilt my whole way of doing things.
Wow.
So in business, you have to do that. The idea that you're just going to get successful, it's not like that. You have to constantly change and move and go with the times and, reinvent yourself. I'm tired of it. At 49, I'm like, I'm ready to like not.
Yeah.
But it's what you have to do.
You still have to do it.
You have to.
You have a couple. You have 20 more years to reinvent yourself.
Man,
we'll see what. We'll follow the Thomas Hayes. Hey, look, I'm on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Just as much.
Well, we just bought the building next door.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Oh, wow.
Which is already, we rented it already. And my wife's like, we got to buy it. This is what we have to do. And there was a time when it would have been like, I would have killed people to be able to buy a building because I thought it was such a big, important thing. And I already owned one in North Hollywood and one in Hollywood. When I say own, I mean I have a huge mortgage that I have to pay no matter what.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by own. And and I was like so bummed out when we closed like 3-4 weeks ago. I was like, fuck, now we just have to pay more every month. And like I was like, ugh. Yeah. And everyone's like, it's a great thing to do. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it is, but sometimes, and this applies to all like psychological or spiritual things too, doing the right thing doesn't feel good sometimes.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing sometimes feels way worse than doing the wrong thing. The wrong thing can feel great until it catches up.
Yeah.
But
getting to that point of like where you have to do the hard thing, the thing that makes you scared, the thing that makes you like really nervous of like, this has to work out. Like something has to happen. I'm right there right now. With a few different things like, getting uncomfortable, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and saying like, hey, I'm in a tough spot, but I have a feeling that this is going to work out. It just doesn't feel good in the moment. Yeah.
When COVID happened, that was a big thing. And right when it happened, I'm not a person who can like stay home. I just cannot do it. So like I had 2 days in, I bought a game console and I was like in my theater room, like, and I was going crazy. And this doctor called me and said, oh, I have a problem. I need to make face masks and we don't have any. She's at Cedars. And it went from that to like me being back at the showroom, which was closed, right, during the first COVID shutdown, to me and my daughters made like 10,000 face masks. Not these ones, but the shields.
Oh, wow.
And so while I'm doing that, my wife's like, look, you need to be on Instagram. And she'd been telling me for a long time. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I want to make stuff and I want to, whatever. She's like, you really need to be on Instagram. All these designers are trapped in their house too. They're scared. They're going through it. And you need to be on there and you need to be talking to them and checking in on them. And it was such a principle of like the same thing, being of service, being helpful. And people all now think I love being on Instagram, being a monkey and just jumping around and clipping my fingers and shit. But there's days that I like it. But there's a lot of days where I'm like, fuck, how can I do this? What am I going to do? Like, what more dumb shit am I going to talk about? You know? And I do like people, but it is work, you know? And that really catapulted us doing that and like checking in with people and being helpful to people. I was sending masks. All the designers, I was talking to them about who needed face masks. And people needed them. Like a lot of hospitals didn't have any equipment. I was shipping them all over the country.
Wow.
And those relationships with those designers turned into real friendships and relationships. I mean, I make good stools, but...
Yeah. But with the Instagram thing too, you know, especially during that time, a lot of people who otherwise had no desire to be public figures or put themselves out there in any way were forced to. And I mean, we're working with Laurent right now, and who has never been on camera. Or
talk about uncomfortable. Hi, I'm on camera.
Being like front facing for the first time. And what was that experience like for you? I mean, you have such a big personality naturally that it almost seems like it would be something that came naturally to you. Did it?
Well, I mean, no, because that's the thing. It's like, how do people perceive you versus how do you feel, you know? And I learned over time. And like, at first I was trying to do what I thought people should do. And then the outtakes that I had were like the funniest parts, like the things I would drop something or whatever. And then this is really ridiculous, but I have I trim like shearling, you know, on my stools just because I get like real ADHD and like I want to just make it look right, even though it's a big puffy sheepskin. I want to like trim it a little bit. And so I did that on camera one time and I got this huge response. And like people were just like, we love when you trim the shearling. Do more of that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so then I bought these like really nice looking scissors that were like beautiful, like, cause I was like, okay, you know? And so I trimmed the shearling here and there.
I've messed a stool with shearling. It was a bad haircut. That poor stool did not look right.
No, it's true.
You can screw up a haircut just as much as, oh my God.
And you know, you design a lot of beautiful things and you know that like the whole thing is like to make it look intentional. It doesn't have to look perfect. It just has to look intentional, which none of it's intentional. We're just like an airplane is falling with you know, propulsion on it. It's just falling. Flying is falling in a certain direction where you don't hit the ground. So yeah, it was an evolution.
Yeah.
You know? And it still is. And there's times when I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do anything. Then I'll do 3 reels in a row on something in the showroom. And it's the whole week of content. And it's just like one take. Yeah. Just blah, blah, blah. Woo. You know? But that's what people like. They like the real person that you are. They don't want to see an act, you know?
Yeah. But what's interesting is that, I mean, I think both of us, again, you know, you're a people person. I mean, it's like I've always known you. And, you know, you are just someone that, you know, likes the personal contact. And, I mean, like, I love being with, you know, with people. Like, I do get a kick out of it. And so suddenly being on camera, you're like, this is not what I'm used to. I'm used to, you know, having someone in the room, talking to them. I'm totally comfortable with that. But once you put a camera, I'm like,
yeah, it's true. It's true. But, you know, it's like anything, practice, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem, I think, that a lot of young people, my 4 daughters are 23, 20, 18, and 16. And they're in this world where kids, when you ask them, what do you want to be when they grow up? They're like, I want to have bought GameStop or be an influencer. Like, that's what I want to have happen to me. And, like, that is not the pathway to any sort of happiness or fulfillment. Like, you know, at the end of the day, however good of a guy I am that day or the next day, like I've actually made something and done something and created something that's real in the world, you know, and it's worth it. It's worth learning and changing and growing. And like, there's no path for that right now. I think kids are just like, I feel bad for them. It's like, there's no direct, like clear thing to do. Yeah. As a young person now.
Well, there's also, I feel like there's such a lack of people who, I could be wrong about this because I'm online all the time. Okay. But that as someone who's comfortable with that, who's always been comfortable with that. I'm happy being on camera. I love that. I love being on stage. That's like where I've belonged my whole life.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people now who feel that they have to be that kind of person in order to find any kind of success. And how do you feel that like being an online presence has actually affected your business and what you do?
I mean, like I said, I did it and I grew my business while I grew my online presence. So it's fine, I think. What I was always scared of was, okay, let's say they offered like to have me be on some reality shows like a long time ago.
Really?
And I was like, I don't want to get famous for being famous. I want to have a body of work. And I want to like have something, you know, that I can be like, oh, this is who I am. So I think that my whatever market share I have, it's based on the real things I've done and who I am. It's not fluff or posturing or whatever. And I think that all we see is posturing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you buy this lipstick that Kylie Jenner didn't design, then you will have her lips, which are not because of the lipstick.
Yeah.
And then kids believe that they can just like do that, you know, no talent, no skill whatsoever, just, you know.
Or you have someone who's like hit the genetic lottery when it comes to like fitness and like.
She did not hit the genetic lottery.
Well,
if you look at old pictures.
No, but you don't have to win the genetic lottery when you have that much money. When you have that much money, you don't have to. But then there are those who are like extremely fit, who are like naturally very like muscular or whatever, or very lean.
Like
and
you.
Then they start a fitness company.
Oh.
You know, that's not me. I do hot yoga 5 days a week. Like naturally, that's not what this is. But for those who like maybe don't need to like work out all the time, they'll you know become fitness influencers and they're selling people this idea. But it your work really speaks for itself, and it has. I mean, I can recognize your work when I see it anywhere.
So
weird.
Weird.
It's so cool.
Yeah, but again, the only reason that you get a collection, whether it's of paintings or furniture, is because you make a bunch of shit that doesn't work, and then you curate out of that like what does, and then you stand back and go, oh, these kind of look like each other a little bit, and it's like I think that this is a bold claim, but I think I'm the most prolific, talented Barstool designer ever in history. And I have to say that that's because I've made more mistake, reject, bad Barstools than anybody in history. Hundreds and hundreds of right into the flames, just like burn the fucking thing. And it's true because it's part of my process. I don't draw things and then print them on a 3D printer.
Yeah.
I make them over and over and move it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. The swing that I have, it took a year, 1 year. I would just be out there fighting with it, like on the showroom, just like putting ropes on it and trying different things and trying to make that work. Oh, it doesn't work. Let's get something else. And like, it's just, I fight with things, you know? And so because of that, it's true.
No, it's funny because it's like I have like
true.
stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
That, we drew it and then we looked at it and we were like, oh, that's ugly. Yeah. So now it's on the shelf and we have to rethink it, and it's there, it's maturing. Yeah. But there's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's true. So I think that's why I'm so good at Barstools, is because I've just done it so much.
Yeah.
You know, and that's anybody, any kid, any person, you know, like I mentor a lot of guys, you know that. And they'll be like 26 and be like, oh, my life sucks. I'm not going anywhere. Like this job, it's over. My life is awful. I'm like, listen, man, there's a guy right now who's 26 who owns a private jet, who's the CEO of a company. Like, you know, the only difference between you and that guy is he wakes up and does different shit than you do. If you woke up and did all the shit he did, you may not be him in 5 years, but you would be way more like that motherfucker than you're like you. And that's the thing, is you have to look at, stop all the like mysticism, right, of things. Like, it's what you do. Yeah. You have to make a plan of action. You have to execute it. And you can fail the whole way as long as you keep going, you know?
Doing
and
it,
that's what I didn't realize until I was like, even 40, maybe 42, was like, I'm not fearless. I just, when I'm scared, I keep moving my feet. And a lot of people can't. They just stop. Yeah. And I used to think they just didn't want to, but it's not that. They can't. They're scared and they freeze up. And what makes me look fearless is that I'm like stumbling forward and falling. And I'm just like, oh. Yeah. You know?
God, I love that, like moving scared through things. I do that quite a bit. There's so many things that like I've tried, that I've wanted to do, that like I get close to it and I'm like, this is going to fail. It's not going to do well. And then I still like put on a smile and do it anyway, you know?
Because it's the
and
process,
sometimes it
though.
does.
I mean,
Sometimes it does fail. Yeah.
How many things have you designed that never were made? Yeah, right. But there's some component from it
Right.
that you actually end up using. It's
Yeah.
always like
And
that.
then there's stuff that you design that literally sits on the shelf for 2-3 years, and you know, one day you don't know why, you pick it up and you're like, hey, that would be cool, and then it takes a life of its own. But yeah, you have to. Yeah, it doesn't come like, you know, oh, I'm gonna make that, and it's.
But that's what
not
you
how it
see on
works.
TikTok. You
Yes,
see like,
exactly.
oh, I have a bottle opener and a this, and like, oh, and I'm
Right.
selling this on Etsy or whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
selling my product. You know, it's like, come on, that's not how
Yeah.
it works.
But I think that that's probably a little temporary. I mean, you know, for us, it's. I mean, look, it's what 15, 20 years for you of designing.
Yeah, 15, 20, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no,
Probably
we-
20, but I wouldn't admit it.
Right.
I was a fraud. I was just tricking people. That's why.
We're 15 years in, you know, so it's like from the first piece that we've designed. So it's, you know, it takes time, and it grows and it changes, and you know, but it takes time. And you know, when I see the Instagram, be like, you know, you can sell something, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna last. That's gonna be for the longevity. I'm sure it's gonna last.
You know what? The thing is, like, I walked in here, right? And, like, I've been in, what's his name? My favorite guy, Pierre Yovanovich's showroom in Paris. Like, I'm like, the guy's amazing. He's so cool. Like, and he smells amazing, and he walks amazing, and, like, you know, and I walked in here, and I'm like, I knew exactly what was going on. Like, I knew there was a consistency, and the quality level was so beautiful. And, like, people who actually spend $5,000 on a dining chair, they fucking know
Right.
when they walk into a place if the quality's there or not. They might not know why the inner workings of this sofa are strung a certain way, or if there's, you know, horsehair used or organic cotton. They might not know the details of why it's quality, but they know. And when I have people come in my showroom, which is not a typical showroom, it's more like a working studio, you know, with stuff everywhere, and it's not like a mess, but it's definitely not like a showroom that's stuffy.
It's like kind of a mess, but like in a really, it's a very artistic
Yeah,
vibe. When
it
you
is.
walk in there, you know that somebody's creating something.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when people see the actual stuff and sit on it and feel it, it's better than they were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's interesting. Like, and I tell my employees, like, go to other places, ask them to do something custom. They're gonna be like, no. Ask them to like change the dimensions or whatever. Ask them to do any of the stuff we do and see what your response is. Like, we go way overboard to try to make things as good as possible for everyone. And that's, people want that. You know, people want to feel like they're really getting the best possible product they can. You know, look around. I mean, come on.
I mean, come on.
This
Well,
is the
plus
good
it's,
shit.
it's that you know, what you're talking about is that relationship that you've built with the designers, where they can call you and be like, hey, Thomas, I have a need, an issue, you know, I need something, and then
But
you
you
go
know
to
what,
bat.
though? You're right. But I call them now. I call them and check on them.
Right.
And like, I'll get a quote for like 2 sets of 5 Barstools, and I called a woman today, and I was like, hey, I saw this, and da da da. And she's like, yeah, well, oh yeah, let me look at my notes. Oh, they didn't choose those. These are super rich people, and they are building this house in Utah, but they wanted to go with a lesser price Barstool. And I was like, that's totally cool. I'm like, but I want to remind you, save my cell phone. If you need anything, like, call me directly. And then I sent a thank you card. I filled it out, and I send cards in the mail all the time. Like, you have to remind people that you're available, you know?
Do you feel that, because when we started, there was pre-internet, pre-anything.
pre.
I mean, we were designers used to show up in our showroom or twice a week, 3 times a week to source.
Yeah.
You know, so we built.
There was no internet sourcing.
Yeah.
Right. So we built relationship with those designers. Like, you know, we saw the kids, you know, born, or, you know, we saw all that stuff for years. And then we had the email thing of, oh, send me an email, I'm not even coming, you know, or they would show up and be like, I have only 2 seconds. I'm like, what are you going to do 2 seconds? I have,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
7,000,
right.
you know, so it's just, okay, bye. And now I feel like there's a need of that personal relationship that's coming back. Don't you feel that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that people used to ask like years ago, do you sell more online or more in person? I'm like, there's no separation. There's no difference between online and in the showroom. They're all the same planet that we're on. And it's access to that, you know, and a lot of times like people will, like a woman commented on my swing that I put up the other day, and she's like, oh, I love it. And I messaged her and said, thank you for your comment. I just do like polite things, right? She's like, oh, I'm a huge fan. She never talked to me, but the minute I said thank you, she pours this whole thing about she loves my stuff. She wants this credenza and she can't afford it, but she's like a doctor and she helps kids and stuff. And I'm like a softie where I'm like, look, I have a showroom one. It has this kind of base, you know, and she's like, I still don't know if I could do it. I said, look, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but I'm going to give you a great deal and take care of you, you know, because you do important work, you know, and that's from online.
Right.
That's just as real as someone walking in the showroom. It's human connection, you know, and treating people, I don't know. It's hard though. It is hard because your brain is like overwhelmed with all this communication. I mean, I have so many conversations every day. Then people are like, you know, the stool with it. And I'm like, the stool, the table. Yeah, the stool, the table. Yeah, it's true.
So I could probably get to we have 3 questions that we ask all of our guests.
Okay.
So it's kind of a lightning round, but if you want to take a little time with it, I'll allow it. Cool?
Go, yeah.
All right. Question number 1. What is the messiest place in your house?
Messiest place in my house. There isn't one. I'm like, yeah, my wife does not ride that way.
Oh, no?
No. I mean, matter of fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Would I be messy? I probably would be, but it just doesn't ride. Oh, my kids' rooms. There you go. My kids' rooms are very challenging.
Got you.
But not my room, if I move a vase over 2 inches, my wife will come have a talk with me. And she's nice. She's not like, what the fuck? She's like, can I talk to you for a second? You know, I just wanted to ask you, is this okay with you where we've decided to put this? And the handle points this way. And that's because of this. And is that okay with you? She always makes me sign off. I'm like, it's fucking okay with me, but I just moved it. I'm sorry. Like I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I move stuff in the guest room just to see. And she comes and puts it back. Like everything has a place in my house.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
And you have such a beautiful house. So this
You've
is
been
another, I have been there. So this is another thing that I wanted to ask you, another one of our questions, which is what is your favorite place in your home?
My favorite place in my house. Okay, so my favorite room in our house is my powder room because we have this wallpaper called Drunk Monkeys. And there's a bird smoking a joint and a booze bottle and a bra. And it's like this really fancy, nice wallpaper that's like ridiculous and ironic because I don't drink or do drugs. So I love that it's our powder room. Also, there's a sink in there that's made of mahogany. That's like an antique piece that I got from a antique store with no purpose. I was just like, I need this sink. And like when we moved into this house, my wife's like, oh, we could use that sink. And I'm like, absolutely awesome. So that's my favorite room, like from a design standpoint. But I have a gym in my house that's incredible. And my friends come over every morning. We work out. So that's like really wonderful.
Oh, that's great.
And then the movie room is, I like it.
The theater. The theater room is amazing.
It is.
And here's something that I love about your theater room is that when I think I was there for was it New Year's Eve party?
I think so.
And
Yeah, you're right.
And the theater is stocked with candy.
Yeah. And I love
with movie
kids,
theater
right?
candy. So like all of the kids that were at the party at that party were all in the theater. They're all watching, I don't know, like some superhero
Disney
movie.
stuff,
Something like that. And there was just candy everywhere.
Yeah,
It
but
was
I go
amazing.
in usually when there's new kids at the house because they're all like, scared. I go, listen, here's the candy, but I'm going to pat you down when you leave. And if you don't have 2 boxes of candy, I'm not letting you go. And
I love
like,
it. Oh my gosh,
they're
that's
just
so
like,
cute.
yeah. Oh, it's the coolest. Yeah. It is.
That's amazing. Okay, I get that. And the gym in the morning, you get to have your friends come over and work out with you.
Yeah.
What a way to start the day. Okay, so last question is when you walk into a new space, whether it's a showroom or whether it's someone's house or whether it's here today, what is the first thing that you notice?
Okay, so I'm going to answer in an odd way. My wife changed a room at our house in Joshua Tree. Like she redid the room, right? And it was this bright robin's egg blue, like obscenely gross blue.
Okay.
Right? So she painted it. She put shelving up. She moved some furniture around. And she showed me a video of it. She's like, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know, honey. It's great. It's wonderful. She's like, no, but tell me what you think. What do you see? And I was like, okay, really? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, as the camera was panning, right, I saw credenza I made out of this wood I got in Brazil. I remember how the drawers work, and they're kind of shitty. And, right, and like the wood is fibrous. And then we get to the bed, which I made basically out of another bed from Brazil for my own house. And I remember how we cut it and how we did it. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm hyper focused like an ADHD person on furniture details and how it's made and why. And I didn't notice that the room had been painted at all.
Whoa.
I didn't even know. So I'm not colorblind. I just don't care. I don't care. Like there's no part of my brain that focuses on the color. And when designers talk to me every day, this is like a thing that I lie about all the time. They're like, oh, look at the color. And what do you think? And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I have no idea. I have no idea how to put colors on things.
Whoa.
Which no one believes because, you know, they see designers picking all these colors for my furniture and it looks amazing and they give me all the credit.
I mean, you use neutrals really well, so there's that.
I don't use anything. I'm telling you, my wife picks every fabric.
Wow.
Like, or a designer. I'll call a designer.
Yeah.
I'll call Laurent and say, hey, can you fucking tell me what to do on this? Like, it's not that I can't do it. It's just that I'm so hyper-focused, I can't. So if I walk into a room, I would literally pick out all the furniture and, okay, this room. I think those are brass on the swan's heads that are holding up the table. I think that's bronze, the sculpture. It's a little bit different color. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. That was probably cast. Those were probably cast too, but differently than this. This was highly polished and worked. This was just lightly polished and worked. Like, that's what I'm thinking about.
Wow.
Like, you too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny part is that when you call me for the color, just know that I'm going to call Kimberly. Like, hey, Thomas just called me and he has this and this and this. Can you help?
It's so hard to explain to people the truth. So I just usually go, yeah, no, that's brilliant. Like,
wow. And
most designers don't really want to know what you think. They just want to like run it by you.
Yeah.
So
it's
kind of like women. Women
confirmation.
don't really want to know what you think.
Well.
And women are designers sometimes. They just want to be told, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love your idea.
I mean, a little validation never hurt anybody, okay?
Hey, I'm a validation junkie too. It's true.
Oh, that's great. So that's actually funny that you say that because whenever I walk into a room, like this is something I've been doing since I was a little kid. And maybe this is a weird neurodivergent thing. I unfocus my eyes. I don't know if anyone else can do that, but like I unfocus my eyes and I just kind of look at everything as like big washes of color and general shapes. So like you get a big blob, like what is this combination of colors? Like, how do I feel about this? Or like, what is this invoking? And so when I like am walking into a room, unfocus my eyes, see a combination of colors, what is that bringing up for me? And sometimes when I'm like in this room, I love this room. This is my favorite combination of colors, to be honest with you. But I bring that up because for you to focus on the tiniest little things and like the little details and like for me to focus on like the broad story of the entire thing all at once, it takes me a long time to see the details.
But that's what we were trained.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean, because when you buy, that you design or buy, when you buy antiques, I mean, you have to look at everything and fast. I mean, you don't have a ton of time. Be it on, for a picker at a fair or anything like that, you have to look at a piece of furniture and see and that's what I was telling you when we spoke about Jacques Grand's that book, and I said, look at the details because he's a master at taking a chair and buying the one that has that little plus or that patina that's a little bit better or that, scale that's a little bit nicer because, every period, like the scale was important in in furniture design. The wider and in 18th century wider and lower because they were like royal things because people were
laying about all day.
And with big dresses. So there are little details like that it becomes ingrained in your eye, and then when you start designing, it's the same thing. You have to pick up on that detail, and we have a little bit more time because you get to sit with it for quite some time, but it's a training. And for me, I have the same thing. It's like I'll pinpoint. I'll walk in somewhere and I'll pinpoint on the scale.
That's it.
That chandelier is like too small. That that armchair is like.
I got thrown out of Cartier in New York. Actually,
Really?
because I didn't really. I'm kind of lying. So I threw myself out like dramatically, like as if they were doing it to me. Because they invited me upstairs, which is like a good thing because they were like, "You're worthy. You can come upstairs." And when I got up there was this bronze chair by a friend of mine that I'd never seen one in person, but I've been seeing them for years. De La Vega, if you know those, yeah. So I like run over to this chair and pick it up, and I'm like carrying this chair and looking at it in Cartier. And they were like, "What are you doing, monsieur?" Like, it was like this bitchy French woman, and she was like, "This is not a furniture store." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Like I was mad, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go then," and like I left. But I get so excited, right? And I wanted to turn the chair over to see how it went together immediately. I know what it looks like already, but I'd never picked one up. I'd never felt the weight of it.
Wow.
I'd never seen how they connect the legs to the bottom of the chair. If there's like a bolt or if it's like, an L bracket. I mean, there's so many bad ways to do things that you see everywhere that you want to see that they're not there almost. Like, okay, they tapped it, they drilled it through a bracket, like they.
So a story that I haven't told, but when you're in New York, Bergdorf Goodman, at the bottom, it's all Van der Straten design. And I used to spend time going there, not for the bags or, just to look at the displays and the way they're done. It's just fantastic. But that's the training. That's where I go.
I mean, it's an obsession. Like, you have to become obsessed about something. Warren Buffett talks about it. Like, he was a very weird guy. He's alive still, but he said, when I'm interested in something, I get really interested and I learn everything I can about it. And that's how design has been for me. Just absolute obsession. Furniture porn. That's it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
That'll be your book.
Yeah, that should be my
Furniture
book.
Porn by Thomas.
That's a really good idea. I like it.
My wife will love it.
She would probably not be into it.
Another thing.
No, she's awesome.
She is. I love Janelle.
Really is.
Oh, she's so rad.
She really is.
Well, you have been incredible.
I
just adore you so much.
You too.
And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here on the couch.
Absolutely.
And do you have anything that's coming up right now, or anything new that you're working on that you want to share?
I'm hosting a party. So I was calling clients and I noticed how many clients we now have in OC, which I don't think we did for a while. Like we had a couple big ones, but the OC has really grown in terms of its, taste or whatever. I think, not to infer that my stuff is what dictates taste, but, so we have a lot of clients there. And so I noticed that and I had this idea. So I'm hosting a tea party at the gallery for like 20 something designers all from Orange County, and it's just going to be a fun thing. And I have a ceramicist who's a friend of mine who's going to like give a little talk about her work, and we're just going to make it fun with like cucumber sandwiches and things.
I love that.
I know, so I'm doing that, fun. And we're planning on recreating it for like people here too, maybe, or whatever. But we're starting with Orange County because I have so many great clients down there who are so nice, and for designers watching this, when you're fucking nice to vendors, they'll do anything for you. Anything. So like those people matter so much to me that are just nice. They don't have to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars stuff. They just have to be kind and helpful and not scathing and rude.
Yeah.
I'll say no names. But we all know them. You know who you are. It's true.
Oh, I love it. Okay, before this goes into some dangerous territory, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for being here today. And we have lunch for you.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much, Thomas.